What's up, you guys? Pokemaster Kenny here, and I know it's been a minute since I've made a video, and I know I've put out, hey, I'm going to be doing my comeback, or hey, I'm going to be doing this. Um, well, finally we're back. Finally had some time to myself so that I could be able to record videos like this. I know it's been a minute, since I've last seen you. You can go check me out on Full Grip for their 1K event, Tornado Alley Gang for Life. But aside from that, we finally have the majority of the cards revealed for Fusion Strike, or whatever the set is going to be in November, so we're going to be talking about it a little bit. We're going to be going over some cards that may see some player that I personally feel like is overlooked by some of the players. So as you see, there are a lot of interesting cards, and some of them I even kind of overlooked at first. There are some cards that I'm just going to be overlooking for a second, like this Butterfree line. Obviously, it's not something to like look at, even though it has an ability. Tricolor Scales is when you evolve into it, you leave your opponent burned, confused, and poisoned, which is interesting because it works with Salazzle for a twin. It'll hit 270, I believe the number is. Plus the burn, it'll be 290, 310 with the poison, or 300 with the poison, my bad. So it's kind of interesting, but my only issue is you're still not hitting that VMAX number that Salazzle is needed for a minute. Hence the reason why Weeping Bell barely works, even though it does, I believe, poison and burn, and then you have Yellowhorn to confuse it as well. Plus Butterfree is a stage 2. It doesn't have free retreat. I'm going to pass over this. The Maractus is interesting. For a grass and a colorless, you do 50 times the number of tool cards you discard from your hand. And you do 50 for each, so it's kind of cool. There's a Garbodor in this format, which I believe does either 40 or 30 times, maybe a little more than that, for each tool you have in your discard, and then you just throw them back into your deck. So it's kind of cool. You can Raihan attach to this thing, so you can keep consistency and keep them rolling. All in all, I don't think it's a terrible card, but in order to make it function, you need to have 7 tool cards in your hand, and just for that to happen consistently and draw into all of them, I just personally don't see that happening. We don't have clay or greens in this format, especially because they just rotated, so it's like, okay. One of the cards that I do think is kind of interesting that I actually really like is this Excelgor. For a single grass and 2 colorless, you do 120 with Ninja Torpedo, but if you put it on into the active this turn, you can use the attack for a single grass. So a single grass energy for 120, that's like Buzzwole levels, which Buzzwole is very, very played. But going forward with it, there is a Toxicity in the set, which decreases HP on VMAXs. There's an Electro Power for Fusion Pokemon in this format. It's a 90 HP, so it's level ball searchable. It's 1 retreat. You can attack for a single grass. You can just Raihan, put the thing in the active. We have Air Balloon, Bird Keeper, Physical Switch, Escape Rope, that new Catcher card. Like, this card seems very, very, very overlooked in my opinion, and I feel like it could be a good one-prizer deck. With Inteleon running around and Rapid Strike, of course, it's going to get a little scary, but that doesn't mean it'll be unplayable. My only issue with this deck is you can't play an Inteleon line because Inteleon is not a fusion Pokemon, so you're cutting that consistency and just keeping it, like, flowing with Toxicity. But you do also have access to Genesec V, which will allow you to draw your hand up consistently every single turn, which I really, really like. So we'll see exactly how Excelgor shapes, but I really like the card. Virizian's not that good. We have the first V, which is Serena V. For 200 HP, it's a grass basic Pokemon to retreat. For a grass and a color, you do 20 plus, and you discard any number of your benched Pokemon, and you do 40 more for each. So I believe the number 4 times 5, 200, 220 is what it caps out at. But in expanded, it could be something funny with Distortion Door. Of course, we see how Mega Gardevoir shapes with Mewtwo in expanded. It used to be very, very good. Will Serena see that same play? I don't think so, personally, because it's a grass and a colorless. Mewtwo can do it for a Dimension Valley and an attachment, so it's like... But then again, Despair Ray is a little bit less damage than what it is. 4 times 8 is 32, plus 20, so it's 34, so it does hit VMAXs, but you are discarding your entire bench, and banking on the fact that your opponent doesn't have a response to knock you out. So it's just one of those things where it's like, I think the numbers are just a little bit too lack. Excuse me, I have, like, allergies and I have a sore throat. Kind of hard to talk, and I sound a little messy. Chandelure V, 200 HP to retreat. For a single fire, you confuse your opponent. For a fire and a color, you do 40. Your opponent reveals their hand. You do 40 times for each trainer card you find there. So it is just Poltergeist, except it's a lot less than what Gengar Mimikyu was. Chandelure VMAX has the ability where as long as this Pokemon is active, your opponent can't play any tools from their hand. I don't know how relevant that is. I mean, it stops a balloon, but you can just play Tool Jammer in this deck instead. And then Max Poltergeist does 70 times, and your opponent reveals their hand for each turn a card, yada yada. You know, just a good thing. You need 5 in order to hit 350, so that's not too out of the ordinary. But if your opponent sees you're playing a Chandelure deck, wouldn't you think that they're just going to play around it like they've tried with Gengar Mimikyu was a little harder because they shut you off for a whole turn. With Chandelure VMAX, you're not stopping a whole turn. So, this Heatmore is kind of interesting. I don't think it'll ever see play, but like for 90 damage, for 2 fire and a colorless, if you have 3 additional, so 6 energies, you do 180 in one of your opponent's bench Pokemon. It's not like a fusion or anything, so you can't like, there's no welder to stop it from just going ballistic, I think. And does it specify fire or just basic? 3 extra energies? So you could do some funny Cherrim stuff, but it's just like, why would you commit that many energy to that thing? And plus, like, have different types of fires. Oricorio is an interesting fusion type Pokemon, 90 HP. Ability Fervent Lesson, I think that says. As long as this Pokemon is in play, your Fusion Strike Pokemon take 20 less damage from your opponent's attacks, so your Excelgor has 110 HP. And then the attack for Fire and Close does 5 damage counters on your opponent's Pokemon any way you like. I like this card a lot for fusion decks. It makes it so where your math is a little bit better for a lot of things. You could slam down a Cape of Toughness on your Genesec Vs and then drop an Oricorio and then have 3 Toxicities in play. It just makes for really cool plays, especially because it is a basic. So you just kind of let it sit there. It's one retreat. So yeah. A lot of you have been talking about the Starmie. I don't really see the playability in it aside from like, you know, Frostmoth. So for a single water, you discard any number of water from him, and then for each energy, you do 30 to 1 of your opponent's Pokemon. I believe you need to discard about 12 energies to hit something relevant. I know, like, people are like, oh, you can snipe the Drizzles, you can just snipe the Inteleons and stuff, and that's true, but what are you one-shotting aside from that? And if you need 12 energies to one-shot a VMAX on that thing, and have a reliable way of putting it in the active, I personally don't see it. But we'll see. It is a Rapid Strike, so you never know. We had this for Alligator, which I kind of like. The ability Berserk. When you play this Pokemon from your hand to evolve one of your Pokemon, so Crocodile, Totodile, you flip a coin. If heads, discard the top 5 cards of your deck. If discard of your opponent's deck, and then if tails, you discard the top 5 of your deck. I like abilities like that, but like my only issue is it's like if you hit tails, that's such a downside. And you could just like you could get all 4 of them down. You can scoop up net. You can just do all these things. You could hit 5 tails and deck yourself out. And I know 5 tails is like 25 cards, but it's like that's a big like chunk of your deck that you've already like committed to burning to find these cards and create this like consistency block, especially because if you're playing that, you're probably playing a mill deck of yourself, so you've ran yourself out of resources intentionally so you could thin out your deck and draw everything. So there's a Huntail and a Gorbis, which I really like. A Huntail I don't think is going to be really relevant because the ability, as long as it's in play, your opponent's single strike Pokemon require a colorless more to attack, but as long as the Gorbis is in play, your opponent's Rapid Strike Pokemon have no abilities, which I think is a lot like more relevant and really, really good. You sit there, you cancel the Chilling Reign Inteleon, you're going to sit there and you're going to cancel whatever new, I got a headache, Rapid Strike Pokemon ends up coming out, which makes it relevant. All in all, I feel like this card is really, really good, especially in a lock deck. You could even just throw this in any splashable fusion deck, especially Dragapult. You can throw this in Dragapult and it could be really cool. Crabominal V for it's 220 HP, 4 retreat. Yikes. You need a heavy wall reprint. For single water, you discard the top 2 cards of your opponent's deck, which I like. And then for 2 water and a colorless, it does 90 plus 60 for each damage counter your opponent's active. So you can play with, obviously, with the Inteleon piece. You can play Zigzagoon, and it's just, you Melanie attach. This card is just insane, in my opinion. It's not, like, broken because of course it's 3 energy, so you need to commit 2 turns in order to attach, or you can go with Frostmoth, which I don't think is the best play anyways because you're messing around already with the Inteleon pieces, but we'll see. Pikamuku is another interesting card that I really like. Pikamuku Fling. I don't believe that's what it's actually translated to. I think it's just called like Fling or like some sort of recursing ability. Once during your turn, if this card is in your hand, you may put this card at the bottom of your deck and draw a card. I think this is really, really good and something that we've needed for quite a while. You just having the ability to have a card like this in your hand in the opening and just shove it at the bottom of the deck and draw a card, that's really, really good. That one card could be anything. And I know a lot of you are like, oh, but you have to level ball for it, you have to search for it. But it's like, if you draw into it at any point, it is still a very good card, because it is a +1 no matter what. You're not discarding the Pokemon, you're putting it back. You can only use it once per turn, so it doesn't make it broken, so you can just blow through your entire deck. It's one extra card, it's not even a 2-prizer. It's a very, very good card in my opinion. So I've seen this set a little bit before I like made the video, but I'm just trying to make some interesting. And it's 2/2/2, nice. This Vikavolt actually like made me very, very angry when I saw this entire set get revealed, because I was just thinking, why did they just print like a very viable Vikavolt after the Charjabug got rotated out? So for 2 lightning and 2 colorless, you discard 2 lightning from this, so literally just a Charjabug. You do 200 to one of your opponent's Pokemon, which is really good. So you just go Inteleon Vikavolt and you just sit there and snipe, and it's like, if only we had that Charjabug in format. We don't have really any good lightning accelerators except for like Flaffy, but like, you're not gonna play Flaffy Inteleon Vikavolt. This doesn't make any sense. It's got free retreat, which is kind of interesting because Vikavolt typically doesn't have that. We have a new Bolton V, which does 30 and it switches it with one of your bench. 2 lightning and a color, so you do 120 and it does 30 to one of your opponent's bench Pokemon, which is interesting. And then a Bolton VMAX, which has the original Bolton's attack, but I believe the original Bolton was 10 plus 30. This one's 30 plus 30 for each lightning attached to everything, and then for 2 lightning and colors, just 240. I feel like it's okay. I don't feel like it's the best VMAX in the world, but it's definitely a pivotal lightning GX that you can play with like Flaffy and accelerate with the baby Bolton from Rebel Clash. So I don't think it's the worst, but I don't think it's like that. I don't think it's meta defining in all of it. And then I could be wrong. But like, it still holds a very relevant weakness, which is fighting. Here's the Toxicity that I was talking about. It's a fusion. With Max Downer, this ability only works if all of your Pokemon are fusion, so keep that in mind. As long as this Pokemon is in play, the HP of your opponent's VMAXs is 30 less. So if you have 4 of these, you down their HP by 120, which a lot of VMAXs that are being played right now have 330 to 340, even occasionally 300 and just 300, 310. So decreasing it by 120 with 4 Toxicities in play is very good. Even just knocking it down by 90, that fixes a lot of math for a lot of things. Plus the new Genesec V that's out in this set is very, very good. So it can hit numbers and knock out VMAXs very easily because of this card. Nothing to look at. Mew V is a fusion, so for a single Psychic, you search your deck for an energy and attach it to one of your fusion Pokemon. It's pretty okay. And then Psycho Jump, it does 70, and then you shuffle this Pokemon, all cards attached to it back in your deck. Pretty good. Well, not pretty good because you don't have anything to bump it up. But it's kind of like if you have a Psychic and a Colorless, and this thing is just like the one about to get knocked out, which I don't know why you wouldn't be knocking down 100 HP Pokemon weak to dark. You can just put it right back. It's got free retreat though. The VMAX also has free retreat. They're under 10 HP. For 2 colorless cross fusion, you choose an attack of one of your bench fusion Pokemon, use it as its attack, and 2 Psychic. The damage it's shred. So with cross fusion, I think it's interesting. You could play it in like a 1/1 line in some of your decks. In Excelgor, if you really wanted to, you could play it as a 1/1 line, put it up in the active, do 240 to an Urshifu, which with all 4 Toxicities in play. I know I'm just like thinking of like this hypothetical scenario of like Excelgor even being viable and having all the bench space in order to play like 4 Toxicities down. But like 4 Toxicities minus 120, so that'd be 210. You need to E-power that thing, hit it for weakness, that'll be 300. So actually that might not be bad, especially because you may not even need all those Toxicities down. You could just have like 2 and then that E-power for the fusion, and then you just one-shot it. So, I didn't even think about that. That's actually pretty solid. And it has free retreat, so you can just bounce between whatever with it. So the Mew VMAX as its entirety is a very good rapid strike counter and a single strike counter, but as a standalone deck, I don't think it'll ever work. So this is another interesting card, Galarian Cursula. For a single Psychic compulsory restoration, put a basic Pokemon V from your opponent's discard pile onto their bench, then you put damage counters until it's 30. So there's going to be this card is foreshadowing for something that's about to come up later, but I don't think this card is very good, and I think there are other ways you can play this card about to come up. But I think it's a pretty neat card, being able to just drop your opponent's V down to 30 HP like that. Just for, like, if they end up discarding it recklessly or just being like, oh, research, I don't need this on the board, and then you just, you know. But it's like, my logic with this card is, it's if your opponent knows and sees a Corsola V or a Galarian Cursola V, they're not going to fall for the same trick twice. They're just going to go, haha, funny, I'm just going to commit my bench, and now you can't put another thing down. The only time I could see this, like, working is if you Inteleon Snipe the crap out of your opponent, and you get him in a position to where you can Galarian Curse V, and then that's it, and then hope they can't VMAX, because now that Pokemon's been down for a whole turn. Think about that, because you put it on their field during your turn, so now it's been down for a whole turn. So they just VMAX. It's like, oh. That sucks. So yeah, that's my issue with the card. Dioxis is a fusion single and rapid strike, so it's kind of it's the first one we've seen like this, and it's pretty interesting. Photon Burst does 80 plus 80 if there's a fusion energy attached to it, but the sheer factor that it's 3 colorless, it can be splashed in really any of those decks, and you can play even those little tool cards to make the damage a little bit better, especially if you don't have fusion energies, or if you don't have fusion energies. So you could just go Houndoom, attach, just 280 with weakness. It's not really knocking anything out yet, but with like the, oh, what are those? They're like the scroll cards. Like the scroll cards can make it dangerous, and it can hit for a lot of it can hit for damage 70, 90, 110, 130, 260. Ugh. So Dioxis could be a cool one of. We just need to see some like growth or some cards to come out to make it like physically more and more viable. I don't know. I feel like it's a decent card in my opinion, but it's not like the best at the moment. Meloetta is interesting too. It does for a second color 70 times the number of fusion energy attached to all of your Pokemon, so that's up to 4. Noah, I will explain that in a minute. Special appearance from Noah Spinelli, guys. I should probably do that. Flabébé was always banned in my opinion, I thought. But here's the Dragapult line. This Dragapult has an interesting attack. Fusion Assault is 30 times the number of fusion Pokemon you have in play. So what ends up happening is you just sit there, get your Toxicities in play, Dragapult, and you just go. You do 180, you decrease their HP with Toxicity. I really like this card, especially because you have that E-Power card. It's free retreat, 150 HP, and it's a fusion psychic Pokemon, so it hits really relevant weakness. I really, really, really like this card. I don't know how many times I can overstate it. This is probably going to be it's probably going to be tier 2 at best. But you can Raihan into it, which is really, really, really good. Being able to just consistently get all of your Pokemon out, especially because Toxicity is a fusion. You have access to Genesec in order to draw all your cards. This card's just insane. I really can't overstate it enough. This card's insane. Golem has an interesting ability where if it gets knocked out, you put 10 damage counters on the defending Pokemon. So, like, if you want, you could play, like, an Inteleon Golem deck, where you just you just leave it in the active to get knocked out, and you just let your opponent knock you out. You put a Rocky helmet on it, 120 damage. So, I don't know. I don't think it's the best, but I think it's, like, a funny concept. Just trying to find, like, good cards. Okay, there's a Hoopa V, which is a fusion Pokemon. The ability allows it to be both a Psychic and a Dark type while it's in play. Very, very relevant types, might I add. For 2 Dark and a colorless, you do 170, and then you put 3 damage counters on one of your Pokemon. Shadow Impact notoriously has been a very, very good attack, i.e. Distortion Door and Giratina. In Giratina, not in Giratina. But for 2 Dark and a colorless, that's pretty good. Of course, for 3 energies, the key number would be 220 nowadays. But like the fact that it can do 340 over weakness on 2 of the most relevant weaknesses right now, being Psychic and Dark, very good. The way you accelerate, I would say, is Raihan attach, energy switch off of a Moltres. So you can just get it like that. It's a fusion Pokemon that you can use the E-Powers for, so that 220 number can be fixed. So I just think Hoopa's a very good card in its entirety, too. Maybe E-Turn players might start playing it to counter the Urshifu players, but we'll see. Genesec V, this is the one that I was talking about. It's a fusion metal Pokemon where the ability of Fusion System, you draw cards from your deck until equal to the number of okay, I have to reread this. Once during your turn, you may draw cards from your deck until the number of cards in your hand equals the number of fusion Pokemon in play. So if you have 0 cards in your hand, you have 6 fusions, you draw 6. You have 1 in play, you draw 1. So this card is almost never bad unless you have like a big hand, which occasionally you should have, but Techno Blast for 2 metal and a colorless was 2/10 and it can't attack during the next turn. But holy crap, this card is good. You Cape of Toughness to it, giving it 240 HP. You have Oricorio, giving it 270. You sit there, you have a bunch of draw power, you're able to Metal Saucer to this thing, you're able to use those fusion capsule cards, whatever the heck they're called, and you do 30 more damage. You have the Toxicities to decrease the damage, the HP off the VMAX. This card is nuts, and I can't wait to play this deck. I'm going to skip over the everybody rollouts because they're not very viable right now. Excuse me. This Melmetal is kind of interesting, but I don't know how it'll shape. Oh, excuse me. Ingot, I think it says Ingot Swing. It does 80 damage, and during your opponent's next turn, you prevent any damage done to this Pokemon by Pokemon with abilities, which is pretty cool. It seems like a Shadow Rider counter, but they also have Alcremie. But then again, Alcremie is weak to metal, and you Oko them. So I don't know, if you really hated Shadow Rider, you could play this deck. I'm going to skip over Latios and Latios. They're kind of interesting, but it's just like, they don't really do anything. It's Fire Psychic colorless. You do 70. Prevent all damage on this Pokemon by VMAX. They can just boss around it. And then Latios doesn't do anything either. The Scudra is interesting. I really love this card when I saw the translation. Slimy Room. As long as this Pokemon is in the active spot, whenever your opponent attaches an energy from their hand to one of their Pokemon, they have to flip a coin. If they hit tails, they have to discard the energy without it being attached. So I think it's a funny card. Your opponent, it requires your opponent to have a rope or a boss or that new switching card in order to actually like be able to like successfully attach energies. So your opponent goes Underworld Door. They flip tails. They have to discard Underworld Door again. To discard, like they can burn 3 Underworld Doors and not be able to use them. And they just lose their energies. Which I know they have like Energy Recycler and Training Court and everything like that. But like the sheer factor that you like even lose them is the insane part. And that's what makes this card like one of my favorite cards of all time. It's a really funny card. Dunsparce, Wonder Burrow. Each player's colorless Pokemon in play have no weakness. I love this card. It's not super broken, but it's worth noting Tornado Alley no longer is weak to Jolteon. Greedent V, which you're going to see in a bit, is no longer weak to fighting. It makes these colorless Pokemon funny. Smeargle is interesting. Trash Sketch. You take 2 Fusion Trainer cards from your discard and put them in your hand. Who knows if this card will be good or not? We don't know too many Fusion Trainers. And here's the Greedent V. I don't know if there is another one. It could be Greedent GX or Greedent. They could have been no. There is a Greedent V. I'll have to look at the old one and see which one's better. But this one does 40 and flips for paralysis, and then you draw 3 cards of Greedy Fang. But the VMAX, Noah Spinelli and I have been trying to figure out how to make this work. For 2 colors, Big Stonks. You do 30 damage, and if your opponent's active basic Pokemon is knocked out by damage from this attack, you take 2 more prize cards. If you knock out a V, you take 4 prize cards, which is insane. Paired with the Galarian Corsola, of course, like, there's some synergy there, but I don't think it's going to be that relevant, especially with being Psychic Energy instead of, like, a Melanie engine or even a Raihan engine. Like, a Raihan engine could be cool to where you just Raihan attach a Psychic from hand. But I don't think the Galarian Corsola, like I was explaining earlier, would be the best option because your opponent could just play around it. Max Greed, 160 draw 3, not bad. But I love Greedent. This is such a good card. Cross Receiver. So this is the first time since like Diamond and Pearl where you have to play 2 cards to make it even work. Or actually, no. Custom Catcher worked. Wow. No, even in Diamond and Pearl, if you played 1, it had a second effect. It had a first effect. Alright, so this is the first time in like a while, probably even ever, where you are required to play 2 at the same time in order to make it work. You put a supporter card and a Pokemon from your discard and your pile in your hand. I love this card. Like, this card is insane. My only issue is you have to play 2, which means you have to play 4 in a deck in order to make it work, or you have to play 3, making 1 not viable. But picking up a supporter card and picking up a Pokemon is very good, but we'll see with this Cross Switcher. where you play 2 of them, and then you switch one of your opponent's bench Pokemon with their active, and if you do switch one of yours, I think this card is insane too. It's a fusion card, so it can be searched for by things in the future that may require, that be like, so you should act for a couple fusion trainer cards. So we'll see exactly how these shape, but I love Cross Switcher, I love Cross Receiver. I think Cross Switcher will like be a staple almost. We don't have green, so it makes it a little more balanced. Battle VIP Pass, which is another interesting card, which I'm questioning its playability, but it might see play. You can only use this card on your first turn. You search your deck for 2 basic Pokemon, and then you put them onto your bench. What I see is like people playing 4 Quick Ball and a couple VIP Pass, maybe 4 VIP Pass and a couple Quick Ball, because the Quick Ball can discard the Battle VIP Passes later. But Battle VIP Pass instantly grabs 2 basic Pokemon, which is very, very, very good. If you go second and use these Battle VIP Passes, you play a supporter card, and you get, like, you could possibly get up to 2 of these cards. And then that's 4 bench Pokemon. It's a very solid card, but with the hindrance of you can only play this card on your first turn, it kind of gets troublesome in case you don't even hit a single one, but we'll see. Power Tablet, that's an E-Power card I was talking about. During this turn, your fusion Pokemon stack do 30 more damage to your opponent's active, which I think is pretty interesting. It's pretty good in its entirety. We all saw what E-Power did in the format when it was like played. It was destructive. So with these fusion Pokemon, we'll see exactly how it goes. Sponge Glove is not worth looking at. Grand Bell of Remembrance, I actually don't remember what this does. When the Pokemon VMAX card is attached to his damage from an opponent's attack, knocked out from damage. Ugh. Search deck for a card. If it was just damage, I think it'd be better. Sydney, I know Sander was talking about this card a lot. Your opponent reveals their hand. You discard up to 2 in any combination of stadium cards, special energies, or Pokemon tool cards you find there. I think it's an interesting start. Gets rid of some relevant cards. It gets rid of cards that replace your Peak or Galar Mines. Gets rid of air balloons and other things that they might be hiding, or even their fusion energies and rapid strike energies. So I think Sydney's a pretty cool card. Is it a fusion? It's not. Elisa Sparkle, you choose up to 2 of your fusion strike Pokemon in play, and then for each Pokemon you find there, you search your deck for a fusion energy attached to that Pokemon. That's kind of good. Genesec, Metal Saucer twice. Okay, so Elisa could be interesting. You instantly search for Fusion Strike Energy, attach it. It's not bad. That's like 1 attachment away from like Mew. Huh. We'll see exactly how Elisa goes. Especially there's no draw synergy with it, but like just being able to attach 2 energies and play at once is pretty good. Dancer, draw 2 cards for your first turn. Going second, draw 3 more cards. Chili, Silent, and Crest. Search your deck for 3 Fusion Strike Pokemon, reveal them and put them into your hand. The fact that it specifies Pokemon and not basics is kind of interesting to me. You can just search your deck for a couple Dragapults. You can search your deck for Toxicities while keeping it a Fusion card, but it's like Evolution Incense exists. Quick Ball exists right now. We'll see exactly how this shifts, especially because this is a supporter card, but with Genesec being able to draw through your entire deck very, very quickly, Silent Chess and Chili, Silent, and Crest might be pretty solid in that deck. Skate Park. Whenever your opponent's active Pokemon retreats, that player puts any basic energy used to pay that retreat cost into their hand instead of their discard. Interesting card. Of course, people have been looking at the escape board and the art and think, oh, we might get a reprint. I think we will at some point. We'll see. But Skate Park's kind of interesting. Will it see play? Probably not. But we'll see. Maybe with Shadow Riders, so it essentially give it free retreat. So whenever a player, you put any basic energy so you put 2 in your hand and then Underworld Door, that's kind of stupid. Huh. And then Fusion Energy is the last card that we see so far. It's like a Rainbow Energy, but you can only attach it to a Fusion Strike Pokemon. And then what's card provides the Pokemon this card is attached to isn't affected by any abilities. Whoa. Okay. So you prevent Inteleon snipes. Kind of interesting. But that will wrap up the video for today, guys. Thank you so much for watching, and please subscribe and like for more content. If you want to see more content like this in the future, or more deck profiles moving forward, please let me know in the comments what you want to see, and I'll bring it to you. See you guys.